Welcome to Positive Filter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career with a little self-help around the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope that what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Philip Wilkerson back with, I think, a super special episode. I have two special guests joining me today. And, you know, if you're on LinkedIn, you'll have to see them on your news feed. If you don't, I don't think you actively use or utilize LinkedIn. They're just on my news feed. Before I even got to meet them, I think I saw a video or a post by them daily. And the reason why they came up so much on my news feed is about that social capital, is that people were sharing their videos, people were liking and commenting. And then when other people liked stuff, it showed up on my news feed. And I was like, who are these people? Who is this king and queen of LinkedIn that are constantly on LinkedIn and just doing it? And I was like, you know me, I'm a big extrovert. I'm not shy. I slid in the DMs. Yep. And I started reaching out to them, and they probably hit me back with some automated message that they copy and paste, but your boy's persistent. And I said, one day I am going to connect with these two on my podcast. I put it on my dream wall. I wrote it in my planner. I wrote it in my book. We had this podcast planned about 6 months ago, I believe, and just things happened. And I was like, you know what? Most people will just let them go. I was like, no, they're going to get on this podcast one day. It's going to come true. And so I have Hala and Jordan. Is it Hala? I know it's Hala, right?
Hala.
And the reason why I do that, Hala, first of all, I am an adult man-child that messes up on names all the time. But Hala and Jordan, one, I both listened to both your podcasts. And I was like, I really had to have them on my show, but I wanted to have them on together because I saw your partnership and how y'all work well together, but also you share a lot of the same values. And so I was like, let me get them on as a combo. But for the listeners that don't go on LinkedIn, which I think is crazy, or the listeners that probably just don't really listen to my podcast at all because I'm not as famous as you two, go ahead and just give a brief introduction of yourselves.
Well, first off, thank you, Philip. We appreciate the very kind words. I guess I know Hala piped up, but I guess I'll take the lead here because I'm already going. But yeah, I'm Jordan, and I have a ton of fun. I record Growth Mindset University, the podcast, and a marketing and production agency for podcasters called Trend Up Media at trendup.media instead of .com. It's .media. I'm weird like that. And so I don't know. I have fun, help people, and make money. And I like to help people make money.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks, Phil, for having us on the show. My name is Hala. I am the host and executive producer of Young and Profiting Podcast. And I also work full-time at Disney Streaming Services as a senior marketing ops manager.
So I had to just jump in and say thank you. You saved my life with this COVID-19 because my kids is looking at Disney Plus like about 10 hours a day. I don't know. I mean, not over exaggerating, but man, this is tough. This is pretty tough. We're in the house with the kids. And so we know that the streaming service is the new wave, right? For the kids and for everyone just to kind of feel connected.
We're really lucky because other businesses are not doing well. And I have a lot of security right now. So I'm feeling very lucky.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even in higher ed, I still have to do a lot of work from home. But, I work as an industry advisor. I work with students in different industries. And one of my industries is hotel and hospitality. And it took a very huge hit. So a lot of students I'm working with are very scared going into the job market because it's very uncertain right now. So yes, I do count my blessings about certain industries, media, marketing, anything digital, videos and all that stuff. You still got a job because you can do this from your home with technology, but not so much for you. But bringing it back to that technology, I really wanted to touch upon LinkedIn in particular and how you two particularly made such a huge presence. And so maybe let's take us back to, in the time machine. When did you start realizing that for you, LinkedIn was kind of your platform to utilize, to share and market your skills and also your shows and whatnot?
Yeah. I'll go first. Why don't we just do every other, Jordan? Just to
okay.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, that's a good
How
system.
about that?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So I started LinkedIn posting about 2 years ago, and I have tons of marketing experience. So I used to run social media accounts for Hewlett Packard, for a water company, for a snack company, for a festival company, for so many different companies. And so I've ran LinkedIn company pages before a lot in the past, but I never really used LinkedIn for my personal brand up until 2 years ago. But I knew how to use the platform. And previous to that, I was pretty big on Twitter when Twitter was really popping for people around our generation. And I was trying to do stuff on LinkedIn, but I really wasn't getting any traction. So at the time, 2 years ago, I was posting equal amounts on LinkedIn and Instagram. The thing is that LinkedIn picked up where Instagram was kind of like a sea of content, and it was really hard to stand out. And Instagram at that point was really all about engagement pods, and it was really hard to like beat the algorithm if you didn't already know anybody who was famous and would invite you to their engagement pod. And so LinkedIn has a great organic reach, and I decided that I was going to really put 75% of my chips on LinkedIn, and I've just really focused on that and studied people who did it really well, like Josh Fetcher, who is the CEO of BAMF Media. He's no longer on LinkedIn, but he used to do some really innovative things, and so I looked up to him, followed some of his strategies, and just was really consistent. LinkedIn is all about consistency.
Yes, 100%.
What was that time frame for you, Hala? Like when did you start? What year did you start realizing? I know for me it was like 2018.
2018. So 2018, April of 2018 is when I launched my podcast, and that's
both of us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Both
and so that's
month,
so that's exactly when I started really trying on LinkedIn. And I would say it took about 4 or 5 months, but within 4 or 5 months, I was like pretty hot on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I noticed that. I caught that wave because concurrently, I'm in the podcast world. I started in 2017. But then I was always just interested. I found your podcast, the Young and Profiting Podcast, first because I was just interested in career development, and I saw your podcast first on just my normal Apple. But then one of my coworkers said, "Did you ever check out this podcast?" I was like, "I'm already on it." But then as a hired professional, I think what I've noticed is what we share with students, the biggest kind of people that are on LinkedIn are higher ed professionals, tech and engineering people, and then I think just media people. And so I started seeing that cross-reference where I was following your podcast already because I listened to it, but then I started seeing you so much on LinkedIn, it kind of drove it home. I was like, wow, this is already something I've seen. And then from there, I listened to your episode with Jordan, and then I started adding him. I listen. I would say I don't really listen to his podcast as much, but I watch all his LinkedIn videos and share them and comment on them. And so then I kind of felt like I got sucked into your LinkedIn world, where that was where my main engagement with you guys is through that LinkedIn platform.
Yeah, totally.
So now that you recognized it and you kind of say, yo, this is going to be my main platform, you already touched upon who you study. Jordan, who did you kind of start modeling? And when you caught that wave, who did you start studying and modeling your kind of LinkedIn strategies after?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll answer it in a minute. I'm going to go back for a second. That I start realizing beginning of 2018 that that there's some potential here. I'd had LinkedIn for 5 years prior, probably just because my dad told me to do it, make one in high school. I don't know. And so, but I had one. It says member since a long time. And so in 2018, around February, like the week before the Super Bowl, there's this post that I saw, I saw it somewhere else. I just copied it and pasted it, to be honest. And it blew up, and it got 1,000 likes or 980 something like that. And like 70 comments and hundreds. Oh yeah, it was 120,000 views is what it was. And as at that point, I was just a local personal trainer. February of 2018. I did not have a book. I did not have a podcast. I did not have a following.
Okay.
And to see that kind of reach, I was like, whoa, there's something here. And then, I write the book, I start the podcast, and I have LinkedIn on auto post. It just would pick up stuff from my website, and it'd be like the latest ideas from Growth Mindset University. Enjoy. And it would get one like every time. And it was always Claudia that liked it. This girl, Claudia, like shout out to her, appreciate her. She still likes the post. I catch her liking the post still. And, so then it was like August. This is where I get to answering your question. And I don't know what I don't know. I just got on the phone with a couple of people. One, Brian Ford, two, this kid named Justin Wynn, who's my age, and then another kid named Mark Metry, my age as well. Brian's a couple years older, but and it was the same conversation. It was about like the potential of LinkedIn, and Mark was already really starting to create, and he was like starting to hit his stride. And I'm sure you know him, and
I've seen him too.
And Justin was like on and off creating, definitely way ahead of me. And I don't know, Brian and I just shared a very similar conversation, and then it took 2 months of me studying people like Justin, people like Mark, another girl who I was friends with at the time. Really haven't talked to her.
Who's Justin?
He's really not that active anymore. Justin Wynn, Nguyen, and just a kid that's my age. But and then this girl Sarah Gross, also my age. She doesn't really do it anymore, but she was at the time, and she was a rock star at the time on LinkedIn, and I learned from her. So just watching her post, and so I would like figure out. I was an observer, like seeing what works, what doesn't. And then I finally had the courage in maybe late October of 18, like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. And I went from 1 like to 3 likes to 5 likes to 10 to 15, 15 by like December. Right. and then we really start turning the corner early 2019. I'm getting, I'm averaging like 40 and, like 2,000 views on a video. I'm averaging like then 60, then 80 by like late February, March. And it just like kept going and going. And now it's just, if I get like 200, it's actually kind of bad.
Oh, so I know. And this is a random joke, but I had one of my friends that he was like that with Instagram. That like if he posted an Instagram picture and it didn't get a certain amount of likes in an hour, he would delete it. I'm like, come on, man. I was like, just write it out. I said, just write it out.
Yeah. But, now here, I think it's an interesting point. You mentioned Instagram. Like, 200 likes on Instagram isn't going to get you very far, but 200 likes on LinkedIn is totally going to get you way further. Like the reach is going to be like 10x the amount on as you get on Instagram, and there's so much more business value in it on LinkedIn too, as opposed to Instagram. I don't see much business value on Instagram at all.
No,
I don't know that I've like without LinkedIn, I don't like I could trace like every dollar I've made in the past 3 years back to LinkedIn. I don't know that I've made a single dollar from Instagram. Like I just don't it doesn't happen there.
I don't even spend any time on Instagram. I really don't.
You just auto post to Instagram or what?
No, I honestly, my shit is not up. Sorry for cursing. It's not updated. Like, I just don't care because there's no ROI with Instagram for me. I think that if we were in music or some other genre, maybe if I was a model or did makeup, sure, Instagram's the platform. It's visual. It's young. But for self-improvement, I think LinkedIn is where you want to be.
Yeah, it's young. That's the thing. Like I'm still relatively active on Instagram. I don't post every day, like that would be a waste, but I still am like relatively active on there because I'm 22 and like my peer, like you're just weird if like you're not active on there. So like I still succumb to using it, but but it's not for business. Like you go to my feed, you go to like my Instagram, Jordan Paris, and like it's like it really doesn't have much to do with my podcast.
Yeah, I will say, like in all transparency, if I had more bandwidth, if I didn't have a full-time job, I would definitely be doing both.
So you literally, every time y'all talk, I was like, man, I got more questions, because one of the things I thought about, and here's one, is how do you focus when you said bandwidth, right? Like I got a full-time job. I got 2 kids. Right now, I'm in my basement right now. And so bandwidth about putting your focus in certain marketing, right? Like I want to promote myself, my brand. So I don't have the bandwidth to do the Twitter, the Instagram, whatever, as thoroughly. I mean, you can set an auto and use some, software like Hootsuite or something and just have them pushed out, but being authentic on the post. How did you disseminate, like, which one is the bandwidth for me? That was one question, because you said I got a full-time job too. I can't do that. I can't do all these different platforms. And then two, my second question is, I saw that you said, or I noticed that you said a lot of people jump in and then they go ghost on it, right? And so what are some of your thoughts about people, like where they should stick with the Instagram and not like kind of bounce, I mean, not Instagram, but LinkedIn, because you said, oh, I used to follow X, Y, and Z person, but they're not as active no more.
Yeah.
Maybe why do you think they jumped out?
It's just about what's working and what's making you money. I mean, Sarah, I know for a fact, she doesn't even have a college degree, but she got she's still like a mover and shaker. Like she got a nice job and she's really happy at it, really secure. So I mean, I hope she's doing well, considering the events of the past couple of weeks, but it just, I can't speak for her exactly, but I understand why she stopped creating. It's not like she doesn't like need a following. She doesn't have a podcast. It's different. It's different for Hala. You work at a company. Like she has a very similar job to you. Very similar. Mm-hmm. But you have a podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you want people to listen to that.
Exactly.
So you got to post on LinkedIn. You got to.
Yeah. It's like if you have there's a lot of people who are on LinkedIn and like Jordan said, they have nothing to drive people to. If you have no driver, then it's really hard to be consistent unless you're a salesperson and you just want to provide value in your industry so that you can get more leads. You don't have something personal you want to drive to, but it's part of your job, right? So I think like you just need that motivator. And for me, LinkedIn definitely was the standout one that I could get the most reach from. It was the one that I felt like I could, this is going to sound harsh, but I felt like I could exploit LinkedIn where I could exploit the other channels. And so that's why I decided that, anything I'm going to create is going to be LinkedIn focused. We tried to do the Instagram thing, but like I mentioned, it's just a lot of effort for not that much, traction. It's just like it's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, like I have a personal page on Instagram, but I also have like a Growth Mindset University page. It's like gmu.show, I think. By the way, Philip's from the other GMU.
Yeah.
George Mason University. I need you to get me that URL, gmu.edu. I need that. But anyway, I got
no clout. I ain't got no clout like that. No, so playing.
But the same video that I post on let's say Instagram on Growth Mindset University page, it will get for example, if it's an audiogram, get 36 views. Like
yes,
yeah, it's just, there's no point.
And then on LinkedIn, it'll get 2,000. Now, if I post a video of me, it'll get on Instagram, it'll get like 86 views. On LinkedIn, it'll get like 6,000. Like what?
Yes.
Mine is even more drastic. It will be like 40,000 views on LinkedIn for a video of myself. Like it's just, and I know you have some of those too, Jordan. Yes. But it's just crazy. Like the organic reach on LinkedIn is so good right now, and it's incomparable. And even you mentioned like the Hootsuite stuff. That's a waste of time because you still have to like resize your image. You still have to, if you have a 3 minute, like 3 to 5 minute videos are best for LinkedIn, then you have to have a minute video for Instagram, right? So it's like, there's always like these little time, and they add up, these time consuming things add up. I would rather take that time, bundle it together and spend it all on LinkedIn. That's my strategy.
Using these automated posting softwares, whether it's Hootsuite or IFTTT or whatever, like it doesn't come across too well. It shows like you don't care, so why should anyone else care? And I mean I see very famous people on LinkedIn, but they're just so obviously using an automated posting software, and like these really, really famous people with more followers than us, they're getting like 15 likes on a post, because I think it's subconsciously like they're like the people that see that post in the feed are almost like offended. Like this one individual, I mean, he's coming on my podcast. He's one of the biggest guests I've ever had, but his automated posting software is so messed up that it'll post the same thing 4 times, the exact same thing, exact same copy, exact same picture 4 times in a span of like 3 hours. And it's like that every day. And I'm like, I want to say something.
But that's another reason why it's
or you want to block it. Eventually
out.
Block it. They stop listening to you.
LinkedIn is like an equalizer, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to stand out because a lot of celebrities who are on Instagram and posting themselves on Instagram are not doing it on LinkedIn. And that's why you're able to stand out. And they say that like only like 5% of the people who are active on LinkedIn actually post. So you have a lot of opportunity to stand out on LinkedIn,
and you don't want to blow it. You don't want to blow with that automated posting software. Last thing I'll say about that, because I was using it for months in the middle of 2018 until about October. And when I told you I was getting that 1 like as a result. And what happened? I felt like over the next 6 months, I was creating this really good content, and other people were getting way more views on like the same type of content, and I had like a good amount of followers. I didn't understand what was going on. I think that I was over, after months and months and months of posting multiple times per week and getting 1 like every single time, LinkedIn, like the algorithm started to filter me out, and I had to work my tail off. I remember thinking it was my struggle for months into 2019. I had to work my tail off to get my reach back to where it should be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just add, one last thing about these automated posting. I highly unrecommend using that. As somebody who's doing good on social media, I would stay away. Like, I would definitely stay away from that. One of the reasons is because it doesn't optimize your posts. Like, so for example, and it's same with like sharing off a website. So like you go to an article page, right? And it says like share to LinkedIn. You never want to do that, right? You never want to do that, because sharing links like that on LinkedIn, like it deprioritizes you. You'll never get a lot of likes. The best way to do something like that is to actually write an original content, like post, like an original post, and then just link to that article in your comments, right? You get deprioritized when you actually link something in your post and when you share off another platform. For some reason, LinkedIn doesn't like that, and you will never get any likes. So like the key to LinkedIn is posting original, like a brand new post. Don't do any sharing. Just a brand new post what you want, put the link, anything that you want to drive to, you just put it in the comments and make it an interesting caption, and make sure you provide value even if the person never even clicks on the link. That's the key.
Every social platform, I mean, their job is to keep you on the platform. And another little tip, and then I'll let you go, Philip. What I know, I'm sorry I interrupt, but
no, it's not that. It's just y'all dropping so much. It's
I know we're in the flow.
Yeah,
but so I'll do like, if I'm promoting a podcast episode, I'll write my copy, and then at the end of it, I'll be like, here, Hala Taha on Growth Mindset University at Jordan Paris, one word, because my website's jordanparis.com. It's worth noting.
Yeah.
Hear this at Jordan Paris space.com/EP. Gosh, what is Hala's episode? Maybe 121? I don't think that's right.
Yeah. but the moral of the story is that you don't actually make it a link. Right?
The moral of the story, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want LinkedIn to know that you're posting a link. So you never put a link. You never put a URL in your post, period. You can put it in the comments. You can do what Jordan did and like break it out so people get the gist.
Okay.
But you never want to actually link in your post.
Gotcha. Now, one of the things I'm thinking about is I'm definitely a proponent of time blocking, and I'm learning how to like even in engagement back with y'all do very well with after you post something, let it marinate, and then you respond to people, right? To get engagement, because we know that engagement and reach is about giving back to the listeners and all that following. But you have lives, and you can't be on your phone all day responding to everyone at once. Do you time block and say, I'll post something at 9 and let it marinate on its own, and then I'll come back at noon and respond to comments? How do you measure your responses and engagement with the comments and the listeners on the LinkedIn?
So first of all, just something key is like the first 30 minutes of your post is like the most important. So if you're trying to have a very popular post, the first couple of comments, I'm always engaging back on them. So I'm never going to let it marinate right away. So like the first like 20 minutes, I'm like checking back who's commenting. I'll put my own comments so people don't feel shy to start commenting. So I get the ball running. It's like a new strategy that a lot of influencers are doing now. It's like you post a question in the comments to get people talking, right? So I definitely focus on the first 20 minutes, and then I kind of let it marinate at that point. And then I go back and then if I comment more, it like gives it like a second boost, and more people end up seeing it. What about you, Jordan?
I do the exact same thing. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's basically what led me to y'all. And that's what led me is to seeing out that y'all were so engaged. Is I would see, not only would I see the original post, sometimes I wouldn't. It would say like 3 hours later, but I saw that someone else had commented. And then I would go in and read, and then that's how I was getting engaged. And I would just jump in and say things too. And then randomly, sometimes when I comment on your stuff, people will just add me because I'm engaged in your comments.
Nice.
But I was realizing also that you don't have all day to be on. We have lives. You can't be on your phone.
Now we do.
Now we have all day.
I'm surprised my kids ain't come down the stairs. I told them that I'm on a very important call. Man, my
screen time has doubled, man, over the past week. Because of this thing,
But you know what I meant? Like, we got to get off our, we don't want to be on our phones all day. We want to drop the post, comment a little bit, but then go back to our lives and go back to our work and what we got to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, I will say when I was first starting out, I replied to every single comment, and I made sure that anybody who took the time to comment on my post, I replied back, because when you're just starting up, you really do not have the power, I guess, the social power to not be responding to comments and then expect that people are going to respond again. And comment on your post next time. So I would say if you're in me and Jordan's position where now you have 30-something thousand followers and you don't really have to try hard to get engagement because your posts just get a lot of eyeballs, sure, maybe you can be a little bit more lax with your comments and replying back to comments. But when you're just starting out, like, you should really reply to every single comment.
Yeah. Got to positively reinforce.
Oh,
I will say, man, half the I mentioned totally off topic. I think half the time that I have been spending on my phone though, I think it's like words with friends, man. You guys gotta add me. You're listening. Add me on words with friends, man. Jordan T. Paris, hit me up on there.
That's where you can play that. I've got to play that.
That's where you can find me.
Now I've been just responding to texts. And then I just be like working. And then my downtime is watching Netflix parties with people. I've been doing that a lot. You ever seen those yet? The Netflix parties? Like literally you all join and watch Netflix on Google Chrome. And then you can comment on the side and just,
cool.
I watch the movies that are popular to me, like Ninja Turtles, the original. And then we just troll the movie. I'll send you an email of how to do that. That's fun. I've been doing that because
I heard about that.
That's my nighttime thing. I wait to the end of the day. I think I want to just ask one more question related to I guess LinkedIn, and then we'll kind of go into my last segment, shot for shot, because I think it's going to be pretty juicy. But you briefly spoke upon the main industries that probably make the difference between LinkedIn and Instagram. You're saying the IG models and people selling vitamin water. I don't know, I just made that up. But people that are on on that. Oops. So we're going to have to do a commercial break real quick, and I'm going to come back because I got 40 minutes. So I'm going to join a new link and after this commercial break.
So this commercial break is brought to you by Positive Filter. Yes, myself, because I have no sponsors. So if you really enjoy listening to this podcast, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Every review helps spread the message of this podcast to other people. And if you have a favorite episode, please reshare that episode randomly on your Facebook wall or through your Instagram stories. The more and more people share these episodes and get them out to other listeners, the better this podcast will do. So back to your regular scheduled episode.
Well, thank you for that random commercial break, which is myself. Shout out to me. But the last question I was going into before my commercial break was, I wanted to ask, what industries, promotions, whatever, do you think makes the difference between using the different platforms? You briefly spoke upon IG models and people actually selling things maybe use Instagram, but I think there's a wide range of other industries and people that should be using LinkedIn. And for instance, as a higher ed professional, I found a lot of value in LinkedIn as my main professional connection, because there's so many people in my industry that work at colleges that use LinkedIn. So can you all make the difference between what industries you think should be on LinkedIn as opposed to Instagram as a sole focus?
Sure. Well, I think, say a musical artist, I think that they're probably going to do better on Instagram and Twitter. It's more in alignment with pop culture and people who are receptive to that kind of stuff. I think that they're not going to do as well on LinkedIn. Obviously in the case of Hala and I, a podcast, I think it's going to be much, I know for a fact that it's much better to use LinkedIn, at least for us.
Unless you're a celebrity unless you're a celebrity already.
Yes. Unless you're, exactly. Unless you got like a built-in following on Instagram because you wrote a couple of New York Times bestselling books, you got 1 million followers on the gram. That's different. Yes. But then let's say, maybe a B2B software company, maybe some salesmen at a company, like obviously it's going to be LinkedIn is the way to do it. That's the place where you're going to be forming relationships. Instagram, that stuff, like there really isn't much selling going on Instagram, and when it does, it's like really slimy and like
I would say anything really visual belongs on Instagram. So if you're, like I mentioned before, if you're a makeup artist and you do makeup tutorials, if you sell fashion and you want to show your fashion clothes, if you are an artist and you want to show your paintings, if you're an interior designer and you want to show your stuff, so like something super visual is really good on Instagram. Something that's for like Gen Y, Gen Z, I think that also does really good on Instagram too. For LinkedIn, I think it's like millennials and older. And I think it's like any industry, literally any industry can do well on LinkedIn. And I also think the other for LinkedIn, it's also, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you're saying LinkedIn, other industries, older people, which is true. Y'all thought I was in my 20s, which is so flattering, but the 30-year-olds and over 35-year-olds, they're using, I think I see that different audience because, it's like those old uncles. I'd be seeing them try to use Instagram and it doesn't look that good. They get no likes. They're not doing it well. When they on LinkedIn, they look better. I seen that.
Now, I'd like to point out a couple of outliers because I was going to say before Hala kind of alluded to it, like artist, I would put them in, Instagram category. I wouldn't necessarily limit yourself if you're the artist. There is someone named Tanja Stednick, Tanja, and she paints pictures with Porsches in them. They're really beautiful. It's really beautiful, stunning art. And she posted on LinkedIn, and she gets unbelievable traction, like way more than Hala and I, like probably 5 times the amount.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she does really well. And then someone else who does well, not to the extent of the artist I was just talking about, but someone who his thing is gents style, something like that. But his fashion is his thing. Young man, probably a couple of years younger than me. I think he's like 19, and he does well on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think
there's room for it.
I think that's the beauty of LinkedIn. I think that it's really easy to stand out. So that's what I was talking about before. Yeah. There's a lot of the same people sharing articles, people getting no likes because they're not using the right strategies. And so, for instance, for me, I have like super bright colors, super bright patterns. I use animated cartoons. I really stand out on LinkedIn. And I think that's why I started getting a lot of traction for my brand. So I think no matter who you are, if you feel like your audience is on LinkedIn and if you are connected to the right people and you proactively get connected to the type of people that might like your content, you could do well because you can stand out way easier than being on Instagram. But you need to know how to use the platform right, and you need to have the right following.
I love it. If you see me put my head down, and that's why I get so excited. I was taking notes because I'm starting to use that wave too. And I think that, all the things regards to not just podcasting, because podcasting is still a hobby for me. I call it, for me, it's like a business card for me to connect with actual people in my industry. But LinkedIn is my new thing where I've learned about new opportunities, conferences, going to conferences with people, connecting with other employees. I really don't care about business, the stagnant business cards. I try to find out who those people are on LinkedIn. If I go to a presentation or a keynote, I try to look up the keynote speaker before and add them. So I'm using that tool more than I'm using any other social media tool, and definitely using it more professionally than any other tool, because obviously I'm not going to try to find a keynote speaker on Facebook. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I try to use that. But, this is the part, we kind of go off topic just real quick. This is the segment of the show I call Shot for Shot. And so how this works, since I have two guests, is I'm going to ask a random question to both of y'all. Y'all answer. And then you get to ask a random question to the both of us. And so everyone gets to ask and answer a random question. Does that kind of make sense? So like I ask a question, you two answer, and then you ask a question, we two answer, whatever. So I'm going to go first because I've been prepared. I've been waiting for this. So both of y'all, I think, Jordan, you're actively in college right now, correct?
Kind of, yeah.
Remotely. And Hala, you have graduated, but you had a non-traditional college experience, dropping out, coming back, right?
Yep.
So my question for you in regards to college, and I work in college, and I'm not going to get on my defensive pettiness or whatever, but talk to me both about what do you think is the value of higher ed? And do you think it's valuable? And if you don't think it's valuable, what is more valuable for a young person, such as yourselves, young people, to take into account? Now, if their parents are going to make them go to college, they still have to do it, right? Whatever. If they pay, I don't know. Some people say that's college or bust, right? So if they have to, what would they do to make it meaningful? Make that experience meaningful, college.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll be quick, Jordan. So let me start it off. So in terms of college, I definitely recommend college to people, but I think that you need to be ready. So when I first went to college, I don't think I was ready for it. And that's why I didn't do that well. I was focused on too many things. I was getting experiences, which is the next part of your question. So you asked, what is it that people should do if they're in college and, they're being forced by their parents? I would say get the experiences. I think the reason why I am here today is because I did go do what I wanted in college. I worked at a radio station, and that look where I am now. I have a podcast, like all of that work that I did back then ended up paying off now, where I have these unique skill sets that other people don't have. Mm-hmm. And so I also was really involved with my sorority, and I got very involved in cheerleading. And so all these things ended up helping me later in life because I gained different experiences. And I think that's key. I think it's key to get multiple different working experiences so you can know what you like, what you don't like, so you can understand what you're good at, what you're not good at. And then you can decide where you actually want to start building your skill set and skill stacking in that area. So I think it's really important to just find what you love, and you need to do that by exploring different things.
I love it. Thank you. All right, Jordan.
Okay.
Here you go.
36% of college graduates now paying back their loans said that taking on the debt wasn't worth it. That, according to a survey of 2,700 people done by Merrill Lynch. Mm-hmm. And not to mention that 44 million people owe an average of $38,887 in student loans in the United States, which adds up to over about $1.65 trillion. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. I'm eager to see I got to go to the U.S. debt clock now. Last time I checked was probably a month and a half ago. I check every now and then. USDebtClock.org has the numbers in real time there. So if you're going to go, wouldn't, considering those 36%, wouldn't it be great to know before you go whether or not it's going to be worth it? Well, how can you do that? Well, let's figure it out. Let's figure out your ROI, your return on investment. Know your ROI. As Bill Nye would say, consider the following. I don't know. I watched Bill Nye a lot in grade school. I don't know if you guys did, but consider the following was my favorite segment on there. So let's consider the following. If you choose this particular major, what kind of jobs can you get? What are the average starting salaries at those jobs? That's number 2. Number 3, compare those salaries with how much we pay in tuition. 4, Well, student loans need to be taken out. That's important to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Can you at least reasonably estimate how long you'll be paying back those loans for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like for a lot of graduating seniors, like the shock of the realities of money are severe. Like they leave college. Everyone says like, oh, they didn't teach me how to pay taxes. Everyone leaves college not understanding how to follow a budget, get credit, or pay taxes.
So it's life skills.
And 43%, there's a study by LendEDU. They surveyed, I think it was like 500 something college students. 43% of them didn't even know the difference between a debit and a credit card.
Okay.
Learning how to handle money
Mm-hmm.
and knowing the difference between a debit and a credit card, those are major parts of adulting. And it starts with responsibly understanding whether or not you can pay back those loans or not, because college is an investment.
Yes, it is.
So consider the ROI, the return on investment.
Yeah.
So that when asked, was the debt worth the degree? You can say, yes, it was. And you can be in that 64%.
Yeah.
You can be in that number.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Oh, I'm not done.
Oh, man, he's on it. He's going. He's keep on going. Okay, I thought he's preaching.
So let's be smart about it.
Yeah.
And let's also be intentional about it and authentic about it. Like, let's begin with the end in mind. What is it that I want to do? Because, like there's this research out there of valedictorians and salutatorians. And so Karen Arnold, Boston College researcher, she followed 81 valedictorians and salutatorians for 14 years after graduation to like determine what getting good grades, what it actually all means in terms of lifetime achievement. Like, what is this all for? People bust their asses to like studying hours on end, into the wee hours of the night, and shedding tears in the library. Like, what is this all for?
Mm-hmm.
What you found is that 90% of them, after those 14 years, they're in the midst of their professional careers, right? 40% have risen to the highest tier jobs in their field. So they live good lives, but not a single one of them went on to become a world changer or do anything truly spectacular. As she quoted in her book, valedictorians and salutatorians, they typically settle into the system instead of shaking it up.
Yeah.
What happened is that they learned to be great professional students and how to get good grades, but they did so at the expense of like testing their own voices and potentially leaving a mark on the world.
Yep.
Yeah. So what was her factors? What was her factors real quick? What was her metrics for what considers someone to be a world changer?
I'm not 100% sure.
Good. I was just curious because that was where I was thinking like, what was the measure like?
Well, it's like in general though, like
I definitely believe that.
It's the C students who become like the CEOs and the entrepreneurs, and it's really entrepreneurs who change the world. It's people who get like really good grades and get straight A's. They're the ones that like, go straight into like some corporate job, and they probably do well, but they're used to following the rules, and people who follow the rules don't take risks or do anything different. And like if you don't take any risks or do anything different or change things, then
I totally agree with that.
I'm still not done.
I'm still on board, man. You're preaching too much. Yes, he's preaching out here.
Jordan talks too much.
I know, but he's preaching. But
I don't.
Go, keep preaching.
This is my top. This is my topic.
Yeah, this is you. You've got it down. You've got your little soapbox.
Go back. Keep on preaching.
Okay. So it seems that being a world changer and getting good grades, they seem to be mutually exclusive. Well, why? Grades, they're reflections of conformity and obedience. Sometimes they're even reflections of pleasing the teachers. Like grades are not reflections of intelligence. Let's be very clear here. So let's consider, why do I want that A? Like if you know that A will get you into law school so that you can fight for innocent people on death row, then go get that A. If you know that A will get you into med school so you can go save lives, that's been your purpose, Philip. You've been wanting to do that your whole life, then you got to go get that A. If you'd like to, it's not the A in this case is not an end, but it can be a means to an end. If Hala, you'd like to be an entrepreneur on the other hand, then my advice to you would be study less, socialize more, learn how to effectively communicate your ideas, and then spend more time implementing those ideas.
I will give an example where So I got a 4.0 in my MBA and I got straight A's and I was obsessed with getting straight A's, but that's because I did terrible in my undergrad. And I knew that if I didn't get straight A's, I wouldn't get a good job after all of it. And I wanted to like prove to my employer, like, hey, I can get a 4.0.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. You're talking to like reformed, try to like, I was the best undergrad student. And then I had this big chip on my shoulder. So when I got my master's in counseling, that's when I got the best grades in my life with all A's. I think I only got 1 A minus. But at the end of the day, the people that had the best grades in my grad school program didn't make them better counselors or working with people. The difference that I had between them was that I actually enjoyed talking to people. And so after all was said and done, I didn't freak out about grades as much. I really try to focus on how do I communicate? How do I talk to students? How do I join student organizations as their advisor? So I do agree that was like, at the end of the day, like, does the A in my, freshman orientation biology class, does it even matter to now? No, it don't.
Well, it's about not just knowing what you want, but also knowing why you want it.
Yeah.
Because the quest for an A is meaningless without that purpose beyond just getting that A. So the last thing I'll leave it with is a question to consider. These students should ask themselves, why do I want that A? Ironically, the answer to that question is not going to be graded, but you better know. That's all I got.
I mean, I knew this was coming, and I knew.
So wait. We get to ask a question now, right?
Yeah.
But so why are you still in school then?
Oh, why am I?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a full ride. I don't have any downside really to be in school. So my ROI is like, they're really like, I'm not going to be the one owing $38,000. I'm not going to be one of those 44 million. And so it's a great experience. There's a lot of identity capital, as Dan Schaubel would say, to be gained from a college experience.
No, that's totally true. And I think that I was about to ask that same thing, like all that, but you already asked my question. But that makes sense. Like student athletes and all that,
I was a student athlete too. That was a great experience.
So if they're going to school as a student athlete, it's definitely hard. But that ROA is that they're going to free education, supposedly, but it's super hard too. So, we can't downgrade the student athlete experience, because while they get a free ride to school, they really have a hard time with studying because their time is so committed to the sport that they're at. So, but all right, I want you to ask. I want you to get another question. I want you to ask 2 questions to both of us, a random question.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works. So you get to ask to both of us, and then Jordy gets to ask us both a question, and that's our shot for everybody.
What got you into podcasting?
Okay, so my trajectory was, I used to do these like really random YouTube videos in my car called Random Ramblings of Philip Wilkerson, and I would just sit in my car and put my phone out and just talk to the camera, and I was all about positivity and being nice. But then I realized it was boring as hell, just me sitting in my car talking. And so I just asked my friends, like, what can I do? Can I just rip the audio and maybe promote myself that way? And I still was using the videos, the motivational videos in my car, to just become a more refined speaker, because I wanted to learn how to talk in front of an audience. Now, I wasn't shy. I definitely could talk for anybody. I'm a super extrovert. But I wanted to, one of my things that my supervisors and my boss have always told me was that while you're outgoing, I need to be more refined, whatever, more professional, whatever that meant. So I was using those videos to like work on like thinking about what I was going to say before I said it, maybe writing out my notes, saying like, oh, today I wanted to do this and this. And then I realized that I'd rather just do it as an audio. And then when I was doing my podcast, I realized that me just talking by myself wasn't that exciting for me, wasn't fulfilling. So I turned my podcast, instead of an individual, me talking by myself, to me asking questions of other people. And I've noticed that I just enjoy talking to people and asking questions and learning, because I've learned on every single episode, I've learned something new. I wrote so many notes that I learned. I was like, oh, I never thought about that. And so now it's just, for me, as I said earlier, it's just been, not only is my LinkedIn, but this podcast has just been a business card for me. I don't make money. I don't have any sponsors. I have some listeners, but for me, it's for me to engage. Like if I meet someone I really want to talk to, I say, hey, would you mind talking to me? And would you mind being on my podcast? It's almost a way for me to engage with people in a new way.
Yeah,
so,
to scale your conversation.
Scale my conversation. So that was kind of my ways of getting into podcasts and what's kept me doing it for so long. So yeah, there you go.
I guess I got a question.
What's that?
What's both of you been your most enjoyable podcast episode to record? It could be on either side of the mic.
Okay. My most favorite podcast episode.
Most enjoyable.
Most enjoyable.
You had the most fun doing.
I think my first interview with David Meltzer was
I love
really
that.
good.
It was my favorite.
Really? That's your favorite episode of mine? I don't know why. Like, we just had like such a good energy, and like I left that conversation like literally feeling high. And he just like really opened my mind into like different law of attraction, and he was just like so positive and like he just like motivated me to just like follow my dreams and work harder than ever. And so that was, you know, I don't necessarily, it's not even one of my most popular episodes at all, but it's definitely one of my favorites.
What I liked from that, I always remember is we were talking about 64 hours of productivity per day. I think it was per day. Yeah. That episode.
Wow. He was like talking to God when he like or like source energy when he was
I hadn't heard him like that before.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? This guy is like
I guess he was
from another universe right now.
I don't know what what was going on in his life, because at that time, because like, you know, that inspired me to reach out to him again, to have him on for a second time. And I got like a very similar, like it was a similar version of it. Like, it was interesting, man. Let me
go check out what number episode that was. My first one.
So this is interesting. I think we are literally connected like 6 degrees of David, because I got him on my episode on my podcast too. And I would say similar to about David Meltzer is that it wasn't my most popular episode. It doesn't have the highest numbers, but I literally latched onto him and I said, yo, can you please be my mentor in life, yo? And he's like, yo, here's my number and let's connect. And then we come to find out he knew a lot of people, like he knew my dad's people. Like my dad went to VMI and he knew people that were in college with my father. I was like, oh, our worlds are combining. And then he put me on with one of his podcast people this dude named Todd. And Todd has helped me get new guests on my podcast. So like, maybe as similar to you guys, it wasn't my most downloaded episode, but I literally left that episode feeling charged up. Like,
it's so funny. I talked to Todd yesterday. Yeah, they're always trying to push people on my podcast.
Oh, I say yes to him. I say yes to Todd because I was like, I got no audience. So Todd said, yo, do this. I literally have a Todd list, and Todd put me on to so many people. And I was like, because David, like I talked to David right before going into the new year. And I literally was like, I'm going to conquer 2020. And then like, coronavirus happened. So that was, I think now being shared, I think
that's not an excuse though, man.
No, I'm still not an excuse. But with that being
and fuel to my fire, brother.
Yeah, seriously. I've been working double time with coronavirus. Yeah. Just so if anybody's interested to listen to my episode with David Meltzer, it's number 31 and it's called Get Off Your Ass, Goya.
Yeah.
So that was shot for shot, but I guess we're all connected by David. Shout out to him.
I'm answering my own question.
Well, you also got to answer the question, why you sticking with the podcast?
No. Answer the question about what was your favorite podcast episode. I want to hear that. Go.
Yeah. So I initially thought of James Altucher just because of the circumstance of it with the live audience. But that's number 2. Number 1 is author of one of my favorite books, and because he's a funny guy, I don't really take credit for this, but we were just laughing for an hour like old friends, like laughing, man. He was so spectacular. It's Mark Manson, author of Subtle Art, jordanparis.com/EP99 for that one. Just my most enjoyable by far.
I'm dying to get him on my show. He just released another book, and I saw Heather Monahan just had him on her podcast. So
I put her on to her on to him. Yes.
What you introduced? You
introduced? No, I gave the email. She asked me for the email. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, he doesn't respond to me.
I introduced I introduced you. It's just wrong time. I think Heather had been trying though. She hit me up several times about Mark.
I'm gonna reach
Around the
out to
same
him
time
with
as you.
about the new book because he's on his podcast run now, so it's a good time.
I'm waiting for his next book. I think this is just like an audio book that came out of his.
Maybe that's my chance then.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shot. 2020.
Because he's writing a book unless plans have changed, but he got a book deal with Will Smith, and I thought that was supposed to be his next book, but I guess now it's the next one. So I'm waiting. I don't know, but this might be a good opportunity.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
You got the email.
That's crazy. Y'all just dropping names like y'all know these people. That's crazy. I'm just sitting here like.
I mean, me and Jordan pretty much get to interview whoever we want. I mean, at a certain level, there's people who definitely are above.
We can't interview Jennifer Lopez. Like we can't.
No. But like anybody in this, any like author or like we pretty much could get like any author, or most CEOs.
I'm trying to figure out how to crack that other world though. Like it's a different. We run in these circles, Hala, where like on Facebook, we'll like Mark Manson and I will have like 13 mutual friends. David Meltzer will have like 70 mutual friends. We all run in these same circles in that world, in this author world. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to figure out how to like crack the like household. I mean, Mark Manson, I would say kind of I don't know.
I heard of him.
But like legit household name, like
getting Kim Kardashian,
LeBron, Kim. Like I'm trying to figure out how to crack that world.
They have like their own. You need to like get in with like the PR people, and I think it's about precedent. I think it's about getting like one sports person, celebrity on your show, and they can be like, oh, like I had Michael Jordan on my show. Do you want to come on my show? I think it's about getting that precedent.
Well, let's rise. Let's rise to the occasion.
I agree.
I think y'all are going to. I mean, I know you guys are going to. Like, you're all like, for me, and this is like, it's funny when you're saying you're dropping these names. For me, you are automatically, that's where I kind of know, like, your own perception of yourself is different than what people perceive you. Because to me, guys were already, like, made it. Like, y'all made it to me. You know what I'm saying? And so, I think that's what I don't think normally people realize when. I don't think people realize when they elevate where they are.
So that's a concept. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a concept that I've like. It's been a part of like the master plan for a long time. Borrowed credibility, and Hala and I have been, whether she's done it intentionally or not, I've done it intentionally. Just been banking on this concept of borrowed credibility, where like we are interviewing all these people, befriending all these people, and popping up everywhere with these people, and over time, like people begin to associate us in that same.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think what I've noticed is that when you get different seats at different tables, like this is where I fight a little bit that imposter syndrome. Is that you put in the work to get there, you belong there, and then before you blink, you're like, how did I get here? Like, over time, in certain circumstances, people think you're it in a bubble. Like, as I told you earlier, everyone knows me at George Mason, but that's because I worked really hard and I met the president of the university, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in that bubble, that's my bubble. And and when I'm on campus, people like that, but I don't think of that. I'm being me in my own bubble. And then, but you don't realize when you look around that you have elevated and maybe people are looking up to you. You just kind of live your own perception of yourself is like, that's just where I am. I'm here. And then,
but I also think that's really healthy because I think that
people
can make sure that we continue to keep growing instead of like being like, oh, okay, we made it. Like, I'm happy with, no, I didn't make it. I need 2,000 reviews on my podcast before I think I made it, and then after that, I need to get my own TV show, so.
Just getting started.
Just getting started.
I love that. I love that view, and I think that's great. And I think it like what this does. Wouldn't this your conversation of like, oh, I want to just get this person, this author. I would think for some people that's like, oh man, like that kind of like intimidates me. But that like even like I get kind of a chip on my shoulder a little bit, but we're like, I can do this too. like y'all think I can't, but I mean, not saying you are, but like there's people like, I think, but just take time. I can get there eventually where I'll be in your shoes, and then you're already like, you guys are interviewing Will Smiths and all that. And then I'm talking about the people that, in your level, right? Like maybe I'm a little bit like one step below, but I'm like, it's like almost like I can get there too because I see you guys as an example. Does that make sense? And then someone's gonna ask me as a new podcaster, how do you do X, Y, and Z? And I'm gonna be talking like, yeah, man, just do this in 30 minutes is nothing. And like, but that's because I'm gonna put in that time where I've learned things over time to pass down to someone else, which is so interesting. Like, it's refreshing. I needed this today, like to see your journey. I need to hear a little bit about your journeys and just kind of just see naturally in person how you're just throwing names and emailing and connecting. This is almost like my David Meltzer moment too. Like I'm fired up now. Like, I'm fired up. Man. Y'all about to see a bunch of random LinkedIn videos with this white curtain in the background. I'm gonna use graphics and stuff. It's gonna be ugly as hell at first.
I didn't know we were gonna promote these videos.
No, these videos are not. No, this is a video. This is audio. I'll definitely present that. Okay. But so I'll make sure that this is not the video. But next week, when you see me more refined, you're gonna see some random videos from me. Said, hey, this is Philip Wilkerson coming with you with a link. I'm gonna start doing LinkedIn videos. I'm gonna start slow.
Good, man. You should.
I should.
Glad to empower.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on.
Now, this is the segment of my show. I might have to put a time limit on Jordan because he might go telling me about.
I have to.
You have to go. So shout outs and plugs. Please shout out whoever you want to give some love to, but then plugs, things that you're working on. This episode is going to come out in April, like April, second week of April. So to be timely, tell us things that you're working on, and that will be out near mid-April, and shout outs and plugs. So the floor is yours. Make sure we respect each other's time, but this is yours to let the listeners know where to find you, where to follow up to you, and some things that you're working on.
I'm working on becoming a better Words with Friends player. You can find me on Words with Friends, Jordan T. Paris, space between. Yeah. but I mean, I don't know, man. It's hard to say. Like, I'm just continuing down this path, and you can find me at jordanparis.com.
Growth Mindset University podcast. I'll just say it for you, available on all the platforms. So I have a podcast. It's called Young and Profiting Podcast. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, any podcast platform. I put out an episode every Monday, so check us out. Even with the coronavirus, we're still putting out an episode every Monday, possibly more than one episode per week. And I also have a video with Ryan Serhant, who's the star of $1 Million Listing, that's going to be released on YouTube soon. And I'll be doing a lot of LinkedIn live streams. So you can catch me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name. It's Hala Taha. Thanks. And
Jordan, I want you to do a quick plug. You got the book. I ordered it too. So can you tell the listeners where they can find your book?
Oh, where else do you find books?
Websites or Amazon.
Bro, Amazon. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so please pre-order his book.
It's the podcast playbook, and it came out January 8th. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love it. I mean, checked it out. So definitely.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Listeners, please follow up. They're gonna send all that stuff, or I'll make sure it's in the show notes so you can follow up with all the resources. Please utilize their platforms on LinkedIn and connect with them, just simply to learn and see how I grew by learning from them as well. If you want to leave a question, you can leave the question at 571-336-6560. That's the voicemail podcast hotline. You also could follow at Positive Filter. The filter is spelled with a PH on all platforms. And, we're just doing our thing during Corona. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest on the podcast. I just can't wait to connect with you again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.